has announced, that petrol prices are up 9%, diesel prices up 17%. This is since the conflict began. And when it comes to the typical household energy bill in the UK, new analysis by consultancy firm Cornwall Insight calculates it could go up by more than £300 in July, although we should say that figure is likely to change. Let's bring in Amy Knight then, a personal finance expert and business commentator. And Amy, I imagine you've been talking to a lot of anxious people reading the news right now.
Yeah, it's really worrying. And I think the news that we've heard from the International Energy Agency, that has actually caused some alarm bells to ring, and quite rightly so for government. But what we've heard from the Energy Agency, they're making recommendations to governments. And so it's down to the UK government now to decide what their response is going to be. And just to reassure people at home that there will be some kind of response from the UK government. If they need to step in, they will do, but they're just figuring out what that response is going to be.
So do we know what it could be then? Like, what are the options there?
Well, the options really are something similar to when the Russia-Ukraine conflict kicked off and caused the energy crisis a couple of years ago. The government rolled out support universally, so it wasn't dependent on your income or any specific criteria that you had to hit. It was applied universally. So that's an option that the government could take again, or they could choose, given that it was, I think, £35 billion spent on easing the pressure on household bills last time around, they could decide that they're going to actually target the most vulnerable households rather than giving discounts to everybody.
And we've highlighted some of those worrying numbers, analysis there that costs could go up £300 in July, that we're seeing the petrol prices going up, almost feels daily, doesn't it? Diesel prices going up. So can you tell us what these real-time costs actually are for people? And maybe more importantly, when are they going to feel them?
Yeah, if we start with the petrol pump prices. So you mentioned the increase in petrol's jumped up 9%. That's about 12 pence per litre. And for a typical family car, that means filling up at the moment is nearly £80. Diesel, because it's widely used in commercial logistics and haulage, diesel is more sensitive to supply disruption. So that's why you're seeing the impact on diesel prices even more than petrol prices. So there's been a 17% rise, and filling up a typical family car now is north of £91 for a tank. So that's massive. When we look at the potential impact on household bills, that £332 figure, that's over the course of a year. So the price cap gets updated every 3 months. It's a quarterly thing. And this figure has come from Cornwall Insight. They are a really well-respected industry body, and they quite often get their numbers very, very close to what the actual price cap ends up being. But they have said there's a lot of change. The next big decision day is going to be the 27th of May. That's when we will find out what the price cap will actually be from the 1st of July.
And part of the problem, Amy, is that you talk about government support and looking at options, but the timescale seems to be flooring everyone right now because of the volatility of the situation going on in the Middle East. And there is no sense of when it might end. Will it be quick? Will it prolong and be drawn out? That seems to be throwing everything into a tailspin because no one can actually give accurate readings on this.
Absolutely. It's changing on a weekly basis. The situation is very volatile and lots of things are tied together. So because of the conflict in the Middle East and the potential impact on inflation, we've seen global banks deciding not to cut interest rates, for example. And people might not realize that their mortgage rate has anything to do with the price of fuel, but actually it's all linked together, because if this energy crisis is going to drive up inflation globally as energy demand increases and the supply pressure puts all of the industries and sectors that are very energy intensive under pressure, the cost of goods goes up, there's the knock on to inflation, and so interest rates follow that as well.
There's been some interesting statements from the International Energy Agency today, and we were playing a little bit from their executive director, suggesting 10 measures now to reduce the amount of energy being consumed across the world. So these look at covering travel, homes, work habits. It's things like perhaps countries lowering speed limits and looking to work from home. I mean, this is quite concerning.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, those are recommendations that the International Energy Agency have made for governments to consider. And so it will be down to our government to decide whether they're going to act on any of those recommendations. So at the moment, nothing's mandated. We're not in a situation where Britons have been instructed to work from home or to drive more slowly. But that's not to say we couldn't all start to adopt some helpful habits. When we think about the fuel that we're using, everybody knows how to drive that little bit more slowly or allow more time so that you're not having to put your foot down and end up filling up your tank sooner. So there are small changes that we can make to contribute to saving energy all across the country.
Amy, thank you so much for your time this evening. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Amy Knight there, personal finance expert and business commentator. And as ever, we'll be continuing to bring you updates on the situation in the Middle East and, of course, what that means for you throughout 5 Live Drive.